Good morning. Today I have another what I eat in a day video for you. I'm going to share with you what I eat in a somewhat typical day. Keep in mind it does vary from day to day. And I'm also going to tell you why I eat what I eat, as well as I would like to talk a little bit about our relationships with food and how my own personal relationship with food has evolved over the decades. Because I do think while the number one purpose of food, really the only purpose of food, is to provide us with nourishment, for many of us it's a bit more complicated than that. We live in a world where obesity is on the rise worldwide. In fact, it is estimated that by 2035, more than half of the world's population is going to be obese. Over $60 billion a year are spent in the United States alone on diets and weight loss products. And non-diabetics are taking prescription diabetic drugs to lose weight. So it is very apparent that to many of us, food is so much more than something we put in our body to sustain ourselves. For me personally, for almost my whole life, I had a very complicated and unhealthy relationship with food. And it started very early on in my childhood. I grew up in a very loveless and affectionless household, and food very quickly became a substitute for love and affection. And while we ate quite healthy growing up, we never had any junk food in the house. I can remember being as young as 7 years old, collecting our recycle, bringing it to the store, and with the money I got, buying myself chocolate or chips, coming home, sitting on my bed, eating a whole bag of chips or a whole bar of chocolate, and simultaneously feeling happy and guilty. But I'll talk a bit more about that in a little while. Right now, I would like to get my day started. So first thing in the morning when I get up, I go to the bathroom, I brush my teeth, I put on my workout clothes, I take Sam downstairs to go pee-pee, then I come in here in the kitchen, drink a bunch of water while I take the majority of my supplements, such as my NMN, TMG, creatine, and I also recently started using this green juice powder again. I used it a little while ago, but then I really got into juicing. However, unfortunately, my juicer just broke recently, so I'm back to drinking this. And I just look at this sort of like a liquid multivitamin. I also started incorporating electrolytes fairly recently. I tried a bunch of different brands, including Elements, which is a brand everybody raves about. However, those are crazy expensive. So I started using these, the brand I just showed you. And I think I've gone through 3 containers of these, and they were great. Now, the reason I started using electrolytes is that I sweat quite a bit. I work out daily, and I also take a sauna almost daily. And before drinking electrolytes, I used to wake up at night with these crazy hamstring cramps. So that is when I started using some electrolytes. And since drinking 1 or 2 glasses of these a day, I don't get those cramps anymore. Then I also make myself one of these protein puddings every morning. Now, many of you have asked me if I take a collagen powder. So this is a plant-based, as they call it, collagen builder. 1 serving contains 24 grams of protein, and then they also say it contains a peptide blend and some other nutrients. Now, I know this doesn't look too appetizing, but it actually tastes quite good. And the reason I have one of these first thing in the morning is after I'm done taking my supplements, I go back into our workout room and work out. And I don't like to eat before I work out. Working out on a full stomach makes me feel sick and sluggish. I also don't like to work out on a completely empty stomach. So over the years and through some trial and error, I have found what works for me. And that is having just a bit of protein before I work out. It gives me enough energy without making me feel full, and it keeps my blood sugar nice and stable throughout my workout. So after I have my protein pudding, I then go back and work out. So let's go work out together. Now, my relationship with exercise, just as my relationship with food, has not always been the healthiest one, but I can honestly say now that I really enjoy working out. And I now work out not because I hate my body and I want to change it, but because I love it and because I want this very forgiving and very resilient body of mine to be as healthy, strong, flexible, and agile as it can be, so that I can hopefully continue to do all the things I love doing until I take my last breath. So I work out daily, anywhere between 25 and 40 minutes, just depending on how my body feels. And I focus on strength, really trying to counteract sarcopenia or the age-related loss of muscle mass, and with that, focusing on keeping my bones nice and strong. I also like to focus on flexibility, mobility, and balance, since those are unfortunately things we lose as we age. And then of course I also throw some cardio in here and there for my cardiovascular health. And then after I'm done working out, I usually take Sam to the park to get my nature fix, and also of course to give Sam some exercise. After that I come home, take a shower, and finally have breakfast. If you have been here for a little while, you have seen me make this breakfast probably several times. It is one I eat quite frequently, not because I love it so much, I really do, I think it tastes delicious, but it also gives me all I need. It gives me some protein, some healthy fats, fiber, complex carbohydrates, probiotics. What more can you ask for breakfast? So this morning I'm cutting up these very sweet, beautiful plums. Sometimes I make this with berries or peaches, just whatever is in season. And then I have some coconut yogurt right here. This is half a container. I had the other half yesterday for breakfast. Now, coconut yogurt doesn't have quite as much protein as regular yogurt. However, one of these containers does have 20 grams of protein. So this gives me 10 grams right here. And then by adding my seeds, not only do I get more protein, but I also get, with the pumpkin seeds, I get some good minerals, especially zinc. Pumpkin seeds are quite high in zinc. And then I'm adding chia seeds, which also give me some protein, as well as some omega-3s, some anti-inflammatory omega-3s. And I'm also adding hempseed, which again give me more protein, also omega-3s. Hempseed also have some omega-6, but they are also a good source of omega-3s. Give all of that a good mix. And then lastly, I add my homemade granola. This is sprouted oats, and instead of using oil, I actually use almond butter for several reasons. First of all, I like the taste. I think it's a bit healthier than using oil. And again, it gives me some protein. So this is sprouted oats. And then I also have some pumpkin seeds in here, some pecan nuts, and some coconut flakes. And then of course it wouldn't be breakfast without my beloved dandy blend. This is a dandelion tea, and I just add a teaspoon. And this is really delicious, hot or cold. But this morning I'm going to have it hot. And then I'm going to add some non-sweetened soy milk to this. I stopped drinking coffee quite a while ago. I think it's been about 25 years since I have had coffee. Coffee really hypes me up. It makes me anxious, and I really don't need it since I'm a morning person. But this right here kind of takes the place of coffee. It's warm, it's somewhat sweet, it's quite satisfying. So this is what I have been having for many years for breakfast. And breakfast is served. I'm going to enjoy this, and I will see you for lunch, if not sooner. I am back in my kitchen. It is almost lunchtime, but before I make lunch and show you what I have for lunch, I want to make my seed bread. This is actually a recipe I shared a couple of years ago. I made a video on it, and many of you made this bread and loved it. However, I'm not quite sure what happened. I accidentally deleted the video, but I thought it was okay since the video was a couple of years old. but quite a few of you asked me, could I please share the recipe again? So I was just about to make my seed bread, and I think I'll have it for dinner tonight, so I'll show you how to make it. This is a very delicious gluten-free bread. I went gluten-free about 11 years ago after I tested positive for gluten sensitivity. I don't have celiac disease, but eating gluten makes me feel not so good. However, when I was diagnosed with a gluten sensitivity, back then 11 years ago, gluten-free bread was like, why bother? It tasted like cardboard. It has luckily gotten much better, but back then I came up with this bread recipe because I really love bread. So this is a gluten-free bread. It is super delicious and it is packed full with anti-inflammatory omega-3s, healthy fats, fiber, protein, and complex carbohydrates. It's super easy to make and it tastes good with just about anything on top or just by itself. So let's make the bread and then I'll make lunch right after that. I have all the ingredients we're going to need right here. I have some oats. In fact, I have 2 different kinds of oats. I usually like to use these right here, but I realized I won't have enough. So I just ran across the street and picked up some Quaker oats. Any oats will work. Then we have some chia seeds right here, some pumpkin seeds, and some hemp seeds. We have some sunflower seeds, some flax seed, and then I also have some ground flax seed right here. And then I also have some salt. So let's mix all of this up. So I like to make my bread really big. And because of that, I actually double the recipe. So we are going to need 4 cups of oats for the double recipe. Good thing I ran across the street and got some more. Now you can see these are much finer, so I usually prefer the kind of rougher oats. But again, any oats will really work in this recipe. Now we're going to add a half a cup, I'm making a mess here, a half a cup of sunflower seeds, 1 cup of pumpkin seeds, a cup of chia seeds, a cup of flax, but half of the flax is going to be ground. So half a cup of non-ground flaxseed and then half a cup of ground flaxseed, 2 teaspoons of salt, some hemp seed, and actually one of the ingredients I forgot to show you is maple syrup. So we're going to add 3 tablespoons of maple syrup, and then lastly we're going to add the water. Now my recipe does call for 5 cups of water, but I don't add it all at once because sometimes I do need a little less, so I do add it slowly. I start with about 3 cups and then start mixing it up and see how much more I need. So I'm going to mix this up well, and I hope I'm not making you dizzy with the camera wobbling. And I can definitely tell I already need more water, so I'm going to add another cup. I took you over here to a more stable work surface so I don't make you dizzy with the camera wobbling around. I'm going to add another half a cup. So it's kind of squishy. It's nicely mixed. And then we're going to take a lined baking form and add our mixture. And then we're just going to squish this in here. Make sure to have some nice edges. Now we're going to let this sit for at least 2 hours. So for lunch, I am going to cut up some potatoes as well as this bell pepper right here. I'm going to spice up some tofu, throw all of that in the oven. And every time I cut bell pepper, this little girl comes running. She loves bell pepper. You want some more? Here you go. To spice my tofu, I'm just going to take a bit of this chili paste, which is quite spicy, but it's really good on top of here because baking it like this makes it nice and crispy and just gives the tofu a bit of kick. And I'm going to add just a bit of salt to my potatoes. I am never shy with salt. As I mentioned earlier, I sweat quite a bit. I use sea salt, but I'm definitely never shy with it. And a sprinkle of olive oil. And I'm going to put this in the oven, and then in about 10 minutes or so I will add the bell pepper. And then I have some beautiful mixed lettuce right here, which I just washed. I'm going to put some of that into my big bowl. And I'm also going to add a bit of kale, some of these beautiful cherry tomatoes. They are like candy, they're super sweet. And then I have half an avocado from yesterday. I love having a big salad for lunch. I would say 90% of the time I have a big salad for lunch. Just like breakfast, I feel it gives me everything I need. It gives me healthy fats from the avocado. I'm also going to add some nuts, protein from the tofu, as well as the nuts. It gives me, of course, my green leafies and some complex carbohydrates from the vegetables I'm going to add. I love adding some fruit to my salad as well. So today I have these delicious dark purple grapes. They are super sweet. And then I'm just going to dress it with a bit of sea salt, some pepper. And I actually started using flaxseed oil instead of olive oil on my salad because I really want to increase my omega-3 intake. A bit of balsamic vinegar. So I just put the bell peppers in with the potatoes and tofu into the oven, and it's going to take about 25 minutes or so until I can take all of that out, put it on top of my salad and enjoy it. So I wanted to sit back down with you to continue to talk about relationships with food and how my own relationship with food has evolved. So as I mentioned earlier, as a child, food to me equaled love, which meant I never really learned to listen to my body and its hunger and satiety cues. I just constantly ate to fill a void, not knowing that what I was hungry for wasn't actually food. And I was teased quite a bit about my eating habits and the way my body looked. I was never obese, but a bit chubby. And because of that, even as a child, I tried several different diets. I failed at all of them. And my mother even once enrolled me into a fat camp disguised as a hiking camp. All of that did was just make me want to eat more. So throughout my childhood, food was definitely something I struggled with. It was something I loved and that substituted for love and affection, but something I also felt guilty about. And all of that changed around age 16. And there were many different factors why it changed. But suddenly food became the enemy to me. And I started counting calories obsessively, cutting my calories down further and further until I eventually became anorexic. So I became severely anorexic. I was hospitalized for 1 year. And even after I came out of the hospital, I had tons of therapy, but my relationship with food continued to be a very unhealthy one for another 2 decades. It wasn't until I was in my 40s that I just became exhausted by it all. I became exhausted by thinking of food I wasn't allowing myself to eat. And then if I ate something, trying to figure out how long did I have to work out to burn off everything I just ate. So in my 40s, it took lots more therapy, lots of luck, and many different pieces falling into place for me to slowly, and I mean slowly, develop a healthier relationship with food. I am very, very glad and grateful that all of these pieces ended up falling into place, because now I can honestly say I look at food as what it is, as nourishment, as something I put in my body to sustain myself, to be able to do all the things I love to do. Now, that doesn't mean it's always perfect. I still have this compulsive, obsessive mind that sometimes wants to tell me otherwise, but I have learned over the years to just shut it up. And I've learned to be good to my body and listen to my body. Eat when I'm hungry, stop when I'm full. I just got interrupted by the doorbell. The mail just came and now I lost my train of thought. But I do think I talked about many different pieces having to fall into place for me to slowly develop a healthy relationship with food. And I am so grateful these pieces fell into place because, as I mentioned, I was exhausted by my unhealthy relationship with food. But funny enough, for quite a while I thought I was alone in this. I would look around and see people seemingly enjoy their food without worrying how many calories they were consuming or how long they had to work out afterwards to burn off those calories, until I became a personal trainer. I have been a personal trainer for 28 years now, more than half of my life. And in those 28 years, I have worked with many women and even men who don't have a full-blown eating disorder, but they have different degrees of disordered eating. And as I mentioned earlier, we live in a world where obesity is on the rise worldwide and where we spend billions on diets. It is a world that I feel makes it quite challenging to have a healthy relationship with food. So I'm not quite sure where I'm going with this, but I would love to know how you feel about this. If you want to share what your relationship with food is like, I would love to hear it. Please share it in the comments or anything you want to share. But I think that my food is about done. So let me take a look and put it all together. And then lastly, I'm going to add some walnuts. Voila! I am going to enjoy this right now. And I will see you for dinner, unless I get hungry before then. So this has been in my fridge for about 5 hours now, and I'm going to put it in the oven now at 175 Celsius for about half an hour. And now I'm just going to take it out of here, and now we're going to put it back in the oven. This has been in the oven for another 45 minutes, and I'm going to stick a fork in and see if it's done. That looks done. Voila! How beautiful does that look? And then I also have some edamame right here. I didn't show you how I made these. These were frozen edamame. I just threw them in the microwave and then added a bit of sea salt. I just got out of my sauna, so I feel very relaxed and clean. However, the whole time I was in my sauna, I was really looking forward to having this. I hope you enjoyed this video. Any questions or comments, please leave them down below. If you end up making this bread, let us know down below. I know many of you have made this bread and love it, but if you haven't made it before and you end up making it, let us know down below how you like it. Thank you so much for being here. Until next time, bye. I almost forgot to show you, I also snacked on some Brazil nuts, which I like to eat daily because they're really rich in selenium. And I also had a few more of these gorgeous, super sweet plums.